This is section 1.2, adding integers. Before we actually get into adding integers, we want to talk about a term called opposite. It's two numbers that are the same distance from zero, but on opposite sides of zero. So for instance, let's say I have the number 1. Its opposite would be -1, and here's the reason why. Notice that both of these numbers are exactly a distance of 1 away. So if I wanted to know the absolute value of 1, well, it's 1. The absolute value of -1 is also 1. So these two share the same absolute value. They share the same distance from 0. Therefore, these are opposites. And if I have the number 3, its opposite would be -3. And if I wanted to, I could say the opposite of -18 would happen to be +18. So this is a key thing to remember. Remember your opposites. Now, in your notes, it shows just adding, but I want you to write this. Adding opposites makes what is called a zero pair. So when we add opposite numbers, they make 0. So let's kind of get the zero sum game. You should have that with you. It should be in a little envelope of some sort. So if you go ahead and pull that out, you should see a couple of things. You should see a green square and rectangles, squares and rectangles. For now, we're not working with the rectangles, so you can kind of put those away. We are just working with the squares. So let's kind of look back at our little number line. It says we know for a fact that -1 and 1 are opposites. All right, so we're going to use our little squares here to represent those numbers. +1 will be represented by a green square. -1 will be represented by a gray square. All right. Now, according to the little rule I gave you all ago, it says adding opposite makes what is called a zero pair. So if I take -1 and I take +1 and I add them together like so, what I have just made is the number 0. This is 0. So technically I could take this and go, whoop, it's gone. So -1 plus its opposite of +1 makes 0. In other words, -1, +1, nothing. All right? Now, this is the fundamental basis that all adding, subtracting is based upon. Now that we know that that's a rule, that we take opposites and add, so let's do another example. Let's say I want to do -2, and I want to add its opposite, which would be +2. All right, so I've done that. Well, these two connect and they make a zero pair. These two connect and they also make a zero pair. And because I have zero pairs here, that means that -2 plus a +2 make 0. All right. So another one, we can do this all day, but just understand this. An opposite number, whatever it is, plus its opposite. We could do this all day, but always remember, whatever a number plus its opposite will always be 0. All right. So that is a very important part when we need to understand adding. So let's do a couple of things. So up here, we're going to do some examples of how to add integers. And the first one I want to talk about is adding same sign. All right, we're going to add same signs. So for now, let's start off easy. Something we already know, 2 plus 2, that's easy. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to get 2 positive greens, 2, and then I'm going to add 2 more. Well, that's easy. 2 plus 2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. That's easy because they're the same sign. All right, so we have a +4. Okay, that's not that hard. So let's just do another one. Let's say 3 plus 1. Okay, well, a +3 plus a +1 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. What happens if the numbers are different? let's say I have a negative 2 plus a negative 3, okay? So we're going to take negative 2, 1, 2, 3, all right, excuse me, negative 2, and I'm going to add a negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. So negative 2 plus a negative 3 gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And not just 5, but these are all negative 5. So negative 2 plus negative 3 equals negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What if I have negative 3 plus a negative, I don't know, let's say 2, and let's make, all right, whoops, and then we're going to do another little thing, negative 1, all right? So this time I have 3 numbers. So negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. I'm going to add negative 2, and I'm also going to add another negative 1 because that's what my problem states. So negative 3 plus negative 2 plus negative 1. Well, that gives me altogether negative 6. All right, so this is pretty easy. When we have the same sign, the sign doesn't change. That's just a quick thing that we can remember. So it's nothing that hard. This is where things get a little bit complicated though. Adding, we're going to kind of draw a little line here. Different signs. So let's start off with a simple one. We'll start off with a positive 2, and we're going to add a negative 1. Okay? We want to know what that's equal to. So let's put that out. Positive 2, that's 1, 2, and we're going to add a negative 1, just like that. I want you to take a minute and think this one through and see if you notice anything. After looking at it for a moment, you should have noticed this. I have a positive here and I have a negative, and these two could actually come together. Hey, what does this make? It makes a 0 pair. Remember how we talked about if you take opposites? Well, yes, this is a positive 2, but remember, a positive 2 is made up of 2 1s, and there's a negative 1 here. That negative 1 can pair up with this positive 1. What does it do? It makes a 0 sum. It makes a 0 pair. And in doing so, it becomes 0 and it goes away. What's left? Just positive 1. So 2 plus a negative 1 is positive 1. All right, let's try another one. Let's say 3 plus negative 4. All right, so let's work that out. So I have a positive 3, 1, 2, 3, okay. And I have negative 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's look at it. We can actually pair some things up. This one and this one can pair. Since they are opposites, they can go away. They are 0 sum. This one and this one pairs, it becomes a 0 sum, it goes away. This one and this one can pair, 0 sum, it goes away. What's left? Just negative 1. So 3 plus negative 4 equals negative 1. Let's do one more. Negative 5 plus 3. Okay? And you probably can see the answer because I already wrote this down. But anyway, we'll work it out. So we have negative 5. Negative 5. So we got negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. Okay? And we're going to add a positive 3. So we're going to add those together. So this and this are a 0 sum. It can go away. This and this make a 0 sum. It goes away. This and this make a 0 sum, and it goes away. What's left? We have negative 2. All right. Now let's go ahead and start looking at some tougher problems. So on the back of your sheet, you have questions 1 through 6. I would like you to try these on your own. Pause the video now. Try them on your own, and you can use your zero-sum game to help you out. What you should have got was, for number 1, -7, then 0 for 2, then 3 is -18. Wow, that's a bad looking 18. Let's rewrite that. All right, number 4 is 14, 5 was -22, and 6 was -8. All right, for 7 through 10, I'm actually going to help you with 8 because that one's kind of tricky at first. But I want you to recall something you probably have heard by now. It's called order of operation. It's PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You may have heard that by now. Your job in doing that is always to do things inside of parentheses and such. Well, in number 8, if you look at it, it's saying the absolute value of b plus 6. So what it's telling you to do is to add b and c first before you find its absolute value. All right, so what does that really mean? Well, let's kind of work this one out together, and then I'll leave the other 3 alone for you. But let's check it out. B, well, what is b? B happens to be -6, so I'm going to write -6. C is -2, so I'm going to write plus -2. And realize that all of this is being in our absolute values bracket. So let's work on the inside. -6 plus -2. Well, let's use our chips. We can go -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have -6, and it's telling me to add -2. So let's do that. I'm adding -2. What's that give me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. -8. So -6 plus -2 is -8. But let's not forget the absolute value sign. So I have the absolute value of -8. Well, recall back in the last section we talked about the absolute value of a number is how many spaces away from 0 it is. In this case, it's going to be 8. So the absolute value of b plus c, the answer for that is 8. I wanted to go over that with you together. But try the other 3 on your own. Pause the video. You should have gotten for 7, -3. For number 9, -5, and for number 10, -3. All right, now 11, question 11. It says you have -30 points in a video game. You earn 57 points. What is your final score? So this one's a little bit might be a little tough on you because I will go ahead and tell you, you don't have enough chips here. You don't have enough zero-sum games to solve this. You can work with a partner and maybe you can come up with enough, but this is what you need to understand. You have -30 and you earn 57 more. So this is your expression. You have to solve what -30 plus 57 is. All right, so pause the video, use some chips, talk with your neighbor and see if you can figure this out, and then see if you got it right. What you should have gotten was 27 points. Since you started with -30, you added 57. At the end of the game, you have 27 points. All right. So at this point in time, you're probably starting to figure out a few things. One, what do you do when you don't have enough chips? Well, there's a couple of options to you, but we can discuss that later on in class. And I'm going to be giving you some instructions here soon about that. All right. 12. Well, here is your challenge problem. It says that the table shows the change in your hair length over a year. January, you gained 2. February, you lost 1. August, you gained 3. September, you lost 4. By December, you gained 3. So it's asking, what is the total change in your hair length at the end of the year? B, is your hair longer in January or in December? Explain your reasoning. And C, when is your hair the longest? Explain your reasoning. So I'm going to let you kind of go through those concepts. I want you to work with partners and talk about it. And as always, you know how to help me. So I'm gonna switch gears and talk to you real quick. So in this video, I have only showed you how to do the zero-sum game by finding out if you have a positive number and then matching it up with a negative, and when you do, it makes a zero, okay? We've talked about that in this video and how we can do that. And I've also given you a couple of challenge problems that are, you didn't have enough chips, okay? Your job was to figure out how to do it on your own. Now, what I need you to understand is probably in the next few days after watching this video, you have a date in your packet for a seminar. And that seminar, telling you now, is about some rules that you may have figured out when adding integers, okay? So anything that you have kind of come to figure out on your own, or some questions about how to add integers without using chips or the zero-sum game, write that down and we'll bring it to a seminar and we'll try to have our own rules that we could come up with the class. That way we don't have to use the zero-sum game all the time. And that way when we go to do further testing, you can add a whole lot quicker without having to count everything out. All right, so that's kind of what this project, this assignment is. It's not just to make you, okay, do it, but I want you to think the process out. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I want you to learn it on your own, because it's going to be more valuable if you figure out how to do it on your own just by looking at the numbers and seeing any patterns you might see. So keep that in mind. You're looking for some rules that you have discovered and talked with your friends on, and we'll bring it up in the seminar. And I will see you in the next video.